if you think about it, I mean, 40 years or so ago, we put a man on the moon. I mean, you can't tell me that we can't fix the education system. I mean, it's just, I refuse to accept that. I mean, they keep referring to it as a New Haven model. Starting with President Obama back in his speech in Wisconsin last year, he referenced the New Haven the New Haven contract and how it's very significant, very significantly different. Secretary Arne Duncan, same thing. He's referenced it several times. In fact, he invited the New Haven team, myself and Garth Harries, assistant superintendent. They asked for the presentation. And that's kind of significant because generally you will present to senior staffers, sometimes junior staffers, and they will bring it to Secretary Duncan. In this case, the secretary asked that he be in the room. He was there for the entire session with all the senior staff. And when we were finished, it's about a 45-minute presentation. I asked his chief of staff, "How do you think it went?" It went really well. I said, "No, really." I said, we need some honest feedback. Because let me tell you something. The fact that he stayed and all the senior staffers stayed, because generally, he said, when they're not pleased with the presentation or they're not interested, the room empties out very quickly. He said, so because everyone was here from beginning to end, it was very significant because they wanted to hear what you had to say. There's two big issues. It's the evaluation system. As always, the concern was on teacher tenure. That's a big issue. And the other is the use of student test scores in a teacher's evaluation. Those were always generally for teacher unions and teacher groups. We wouldn't discuss those. Can't talk about tenure. Can't talk about using test scores in our evaluations. And there's some legitimacy to that without getting lengthy about it. I mean, it's difficult because remember, if you want to tie a teacher's evaluation and perhaps his employment to how a student does on a test, too many factors are outside their control. You can't make the kids study. You can't make them come to school, that type of thing. So that was always the reason. But we said, well, you know what, that's true, and there are extenuating circumstances, but we can certainly build a system which fairly takes into account those circumstances, yet at the same time make sure we have rigorous standards and that we're held accountable to those standards and we're responsible for it. It's received so much notoriety because we were able to tackle the two difficult issues, teacher tenure, use of test scores, in a way that's rigorous and holds teachers accountable, yet it's fair as well. It's a fair system which takes into account some circumstances, yet doesn't allow those to be excuses where everything else is, the accountability is not there anymore.